How real estate works. When making the biggest investment of your life, you need to know some facts. Nearly all real estate practitioners work for a client the same way that lawyers and doctors do. They represent the client's interests and must show loyalty, obedience, disclosure, confidentiality, and responsibility for the client's funds. Just like lawyers or doctors, many real estate agents have different roles as well as different areas of expertise. Listing agents or selling agents are also known as traditional agents. They are marketing specialists and they represent the interests of the home seller. They determine the value of the home, market the home, and negotiate for the best terms and price on the seller's behalf. Buyer agents are real estate professionals advising and protecting the buyer's interests in the home buying process. Buyer agents point out potential issues in a prospective property and even advise the buyer to walk away if necessary. Buyer agents also determine the home's value and form a negotiating strategy to get the best terms and price for the buyer. In a hot seller's market, buyer agents will help structure the offer to outbid other offers based on client's individual situation. They advise buyers of their best options after the home inspection and represent the buyer through the closing. When a buyer works with an agent who also sells property, the buyer might find that his or her interests are compromised because of the agent's relationship with the opposing side, the seller. The agent who represents both the buyer and the seller in the same transaction is called a dual agent. To legally and correctly work as a dual agent, that agent must disclose in writing and have both parties agree to this relationship. Dual agent is not allowed to advise either party and basically not represent either party's interest. As of July 2005, consumers have several new options when choosing a real estate professional. Consumers can choose representation of a designated agent to avoid the pitfalls of dual agency. In this relationship, the broker responsible for the real estate company appoints a buyer agent and a seller agent to protect the consumer's interests in the real estate transaction. A non-agent or facilitator is offered to the consumer who chooses not to be represented at all. In this situation, real estate agent's job is to monitor the transaction without offering advice to either party. How do real estate practitioners get paid? When a listing agent agrees to market a property, he or she agrees on a fee with the seller. They will typically offer half of the total fee as a cooperative agreement with the agent who brings in a buyer. As an example, let's say that a homeowner decides to list their property at a selling price of $100,000 with ABC Realty Company. Let's also say that ABC has a contract with the seller for 6% of the total purchase price or $6,000. If the agent from ABC Company is able to find a buyer for the property for the $100,000 asking price, the agent would collect the total commission of $6,000 at the closing and the seller would net $94,000. If the buyer of this property is working with a buyer agent, the buyer agent does not have any contractual or implied relationship with the home seller or the listing agent. Therefore, the listing agent is not required to pay the buyer agent. In fact, the buyer agents often have a contract with the buyer, just like listing agents have with sellers. The homeowner agrees to pay their selling agent, and the home buyer agrees to pay their buyer agent. In the previous example, let's assume that the buyers have hired a buyer agent and they've agreed to pay the full asking price of $100,000. This amount of money will be brought to closing. As we mentioned, the listing company agrees to split the commission, so ABC Company would get a check at the closing for $3,000. The buyer agent would get a check for $3,000 and the seller would take home $94,000. Since there was already a commission built into nearly all home prices, doesn't it make sense to use half of that commission to pay your agent instead of having all of it pay the seller's agent? HTA prides itself on providing value-added services, such as searching for homes, assessing a property's potential assets and liabilities, determining a broker's opinion of a home's value, researching public records for home ownership history, as well as assessment and mortgage information, reviewing specifications for new construction, forming a specific negotiating strategy with the buyer for each interested property, negotiating on the offer itself, as well as any subsequent home inspection issues, and most importantly, accompanying the buyer to all home showings, home inspections, walkthroughs prior to closing, and the closing itself. Excellent service is accomplished by carefully selecting a home buying team of professionals for a smooth home buying transaction. HTA will recommend the best professionals for legal, financial, and home inspection services. To ensure that only the best professionals are recommended, HTA Company never accepts any payment for referring their clients to these professionals. Agents research the seller and the property to create the ideal negotiating strategy based on the buyer's prerequisites and needs. Another role of the HTA agent is to coordinate documents and communication between all parties in the home buying process. Home Team AdvantEdge Company agents work closely with the buyer at every step in the process. Before you even begin the home buying process, remember, for a home, it will cost you no more money to hire your own agent. And this agent will keep your financial capabilities and thoughts confidential unless authorized to disclose. Create a team of professionals on your behalf to facilitate the buying process and coordinate between members of that team. Review and explain forms and agreements with you. Provide access to the MLS and non-MLS listed properties and arrange showing for identified properties. Accompanying you to all showings and critique every home, even advising you not to buy homes that are not suitable. Prepare comparative market analysis and analyze other data to establish a value for potential properties. Research potential properties. Research the home builders for new construction, review specifications and allowances in new construction. Write an offer to purchase with your best interest in mind. Negotiate on your behalf for best price and terms on a potential property. Coordinate documents between all parties. Accompany you at your home inspection and advise and renegotiate for you based on the outcome. Review the purchase and sale documents. Set up the final walkthrough and address any last-minute issues that may arise. Accompany and represent you at your closing. Coordinate the transfer of your new home keys and promote and protect your interests at all times.